Part 1. They never saw me coming. Because no one ever sees a maid when she walks into the room. We blend into the wallpaper. We're invisible. And that used to hurt me. But now, I wear that invisibility like armor. My name is Ivy. And this isn't a love story. It's a warning. You see, I was cleaning rooms at the Argent Hotel when I first saw him. Nico Devereux. The billionaire heir who could buy silence faster than most people could breathe. He wasn't supposed to notice me. No one did. But he did. It was late. I was pushing my cart back toward the service elevator when I heard the sound of something break. Room 1902. A sweep. I knocked gently. Housekeeping. No response. Then, the door creaked open on its own. Inside was chaos. A shattered wine glass. A knocked-over chair. And Nico. Sitting on the floor. Shirt unbuttoned. Breathing like he'd just run a marathon. Eyes met. And instead of shouting at me to leave, he said the strangest thing. "Do you believe in fate?" I froze, unsure if it was a trap or a test. He stood, walked toward me, and handed me $100 bill. "Thanks for coming." Ivy, right? I never told him my name. My name tag wasn't visible, but he knew it anyway. That should have been my first red flag. He nodded, took the money, and left as fast as I could. But something lingered in me after that night. The way he said my name, like it meant something. No one had said my name like that before. 2 nights later, he was waiting in the hallway when my shift ended, leaning against the marble wall like a scene out of a movie. He smiled. "You hungry?" I didn't answer, just stared. He laughed softly. "Come on. I don't bite. Unless you ask nicely." I should have walked away, but instead, I followed him into the service elevator. He took me to the rooftop lounge. The one staff wasn't allowed near. The one with a view of the entire city. We sat under a canopy of stars. And he talked, really talked, about his father's empire. About fake friends. About how loneliness feels louder the richer you are. Then he looked at me and said, "You don't look at me like the others do. You see through me." That night, he kissed me. And that kiss became a secret. A dangerous, powerful secret. He started sending me flowers to the housekeeping closet. Private drivers waiting outside my apartment. Designer clothes I never asked for. He called me his secret. His queen in hiding. He said the world wasn't ready yet. And I believed him. Because I wanted to. For the first time in my life. Someone powerful saw me. He whispered promises between sheets. "I'll get you out of here. You don't belong scrubbing floors. You were made for something bigger, Ivy." Felt like a fairy tale. Until the whispers began. Other maids noticed the gifts. Calls. The way I smiled when his name popped up on my phone. Then, one day, he stopped calling. The drivers stopped coming. The flowers wilted in silence. I waited. And waited. Until I finally gathered the courage to knock on room 1902. A different woman answered. Blonde, tall. Wearing one of the robes I once wore. "Can I help you?" she asked. Voice dripping with annoyance. I whispered. "Is Nico here?" She laughed. "Oh, you mean my fiancé." I felt like the floor dropped beneath me. I muttered a thank you. And walked away. Every step a wound. Back in the staff room I sat shaking. Heart thudding. Mind spinning. Had I imagined it all? Was I just entertainment? Until someone richer came along. I deleted his number. Threw away the clothes. Tried to scrub his memory like I scrubbed those floors. Then, 2 weeks later, he showed up again. In the back alley behind the hotel. Waiting by the dumpster, like I used to. "Ivy." His voice was hoarse. Like he hadn't slept. I messed up. I turned to leave. But he grabbed my arm. Gently. "She's not who you think she is. It's complicated. It always has been. She said she's your fiancé. She's a contract. Arranged. It's politics, money, families. You were real." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to, but the pain hadn't healed. And fairy tales don't survive betrayal. Then why did you disappear? Yes. His eyes flickered. I was protecting you. That lie was so worn out. I could barely breathe through it. He said, give me one night. Let me show you everything. No secrets, no lies. Just us. I crossed my arms. Oh, angry, but curious. So I said, one night. And then I'm done. That night, he took me to his estate. Not the penthouse. The real estate. A palace hidden behind gates taller than dreams. Inside was a different Nico. Humble. Afraid. Desperate. He showed me folders. Documents. Evidence of manipulation. Family control. Threats to anyone he got close to. And in the middle of it, a list of names. Women he'd tried to love. Who vanished under suspicious circumstances. I felt chills crawl down my back. He whispered, they'll try to make you disappear next, Ivy. If you matter to me. I stepped back. Are you saying I'm in danger? He looked at me, eyes glassy. I'm saying, you're the first one who made me want to fight back. Would you trust a man who says he's protecting you? After he already broke your heart? Tell me in the comments. Because in part 2, Ivy must decide if she'll walk away or fight a war she never asked for. Part 2. I stared at him, the mansion, at the thick silence around us that buzzed with unspoken danger. And then I said the only thing I could say. I need time. Nico's eyes softened, but even in that softness, I saw fear, not of losing me, but of what might happen to me. He stepped closer, held my hand. I'll protect you, Ivy. I swear on everything I own. But that was the problem. Everything he owned came with a price. And I didn't know if I was ready to pay it. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my tiny studio apartment, looking at the walls that once held silence, now echoing with his voice. Was I just a pawn in some twisted billionaire game? Or was I actually the only real thing in his world? The next day, work, I noticed strange things. My locker had been opened, but nothing was missing. The other maids were whispering, but when I walked in they went silent. Then, I saw her, the blonde woman from room 1902, walking into the manager's office, wearing heels that screamed wealth, and a smirk that screamed war. I knew she was here for me. Sure enough, an hour later I was called in. My manager avoided eye contact. Ivy, we've received a complaint about your behavior with a guest. What behavior? I asked, heart pounding. He shuffled papers. But before he could answer, she walked in. Her name was Harper, Nico's so-called fiancé. I just came to say goodbye, she purred. Poor Ivy here won't be working much longer, I'm afraid. My fists clenched, but I said nothing. She walked up to me, leaned close. Stay away from Nico. He's not yours. He never was. Then she left, leaving behind a perfume trail and a storm inside me. I was suspended. Indefinitely. No job, no income, no Nico. And yet, wow, I felt clearer than ever. I walked out of that hotel with my head high, because something inside me had snapped. I was done being a ghost in my own story. That night I called Nico. I was fired, I said flatly. He cursed under his breath. I'll fix it. No. I paused. You'll tell me the truth. All of it. Tonight. There was silence. Then he said, come over. I went. Not as a girl in love, but as a woman demanding answers. He met me at the door. His face tired, haunted. Inside everything looked perfect, but the tension was so thick I could barely breathe. He sat me down and began to talk about his family, the empire, the arranged engagement to Harper, a merger masked as love. I never loved her, he said. My father threatened to cut me off if I didn't marry her. And what about me? Yes. He looked up. You were the first thing in my life I chose for myself. I wanted to believe him. But something still didn't add up. Yes. Why me? He smiled. Not mockingly, but sadly. Because you didn't want anything from me. You didn't care about the name, the money, the headlines. You looked at me like I was human. And for a moment, the world stood still. But just for a moment. 'Cause right then, his phone rang. And I saw the caller ID. He hesitated, then silenced it. I stood up. Take the call. He shook his head. It's not important. But I was already walking toward the door. If you don't face them now, you'll never be free of them. He grabbed my hand. Ivy. They'll destroy you. I stared him down. Then let them try. That night changed everything. The next morning, a news headline hit the internet like wildfire. Nico Devereux spotted with unknown woman. Wedding delayed? My photo, paparazzi leaving his estate, was everywhere. My phone exploded with unknown numbers. Fake brand deals. Bloggers offering to pay for interviews. Then, an envelope slid under my apartment door. No name. Just a note inside. Careful, Cinderella. Glass slippers shatter easily. My hands trembled. But I wasn't afraid. I called Nico and told him everything. His voice dropped an octave. Pack a bag. You're staying with me. You're not safe alone. But I refused. No more hiding. I'm done being a secret. You want me. Claim me. He was quiet and said, meet me tonight. The rooftop. 9 p.m. At evening. The rooftop where he once kissed me was transformed. Candles, strings of lights, soft jazz playing in the background. And in the center, Nico, in a black suit, holding a single rose. I stepped forward, and for the first time, he didn't hide me. He pulled me close, looked me in the eyes, and said in front of a dozen cameras, this is Ivy. She's not a secret. She's my truth. Gasps echoed. But I didn't hear them. All I heard was my heartbeat. He kissed me, not in secret, but in front of the whole world. And just like that, I wasn't invisible anymore. But I had no idea that the real danger was still lurking. In shadows money couldn't buy, and blood couldn't erase, because Harper wasn't done with me yet. Would you choose love if it meant becoming a target? If the world turned against you, would you still hold his hand? Tell me in the comments, because in part 3, Ivy learns that crowns aren't given, they're fought for. Part 3. The next morning, I woke up in his arms, not just as the girl he kissed in public, but as the woman he finally chose. For a few hours, it felt like I was living in a dream, until the nightmare returned. A knock at the front door, then another. Louder this time. Nico tensed instantly. He opened the door, and in walked 2 men in suits. And behind them, Harper. She was no longer calm. She was venom in designer heels. I warned you, Nico, she hissed. You humiliate me publicly and expect no consequences. Nico stood tall. You were never my choice. You were a business deal. She stepped toward me, eyes scanning me like I was dirt beneath her shoes. So this is the maid who stole my crown. I didn't flinch. I met her gaze. I didn't steal anything. You never had his heart. For a moment, the room went completely silent. Then she smiled. But it wasn't warm. It was war. Let's see how long you last in his world, she whispered. Because queens don't survive without armor. Then, he was gone. But the damage lingered. Over the next few days, began the slow, calculated destruction of my name. Old photos of me as a hotel maid were leaked. Red circles drawn around stains on my apron. Bloggers called me a gold digger with a mop. Fake stories circulated. That I trapped Nico. That I slept my way up. That I was just a rebound. I couldn't walk the street without whispers. Couldn't open my phone without hate. But worse than all that were the lies they fed Nico's father. One evening, he summoned Nico to the estate and demanded I come too. I walked into that room like a soldier, but nothing could prepare me for what came next. I built an empire, Mr. Devereux barked, and my son throws it away for a maid. She's not just a maid, Nico said calmly. She's the only one in this room who's ever told me the truth. His father scoffed, and then turned to me. I offered you silence money. You refused. Yes, I replied, because I'm not for sale. He looked me over, then said something that chilled my bones. You think love makes you powerful, girl. It makes you vulnerable. He wasn't threatening me. He was warning me. Nico clenched his jaw. We're leaving. But as we turned, his father's voice stopped us cold. If she stays in your life, you'll lose everything. Your name. Your inheritance. Your seat at the table. Nico didn't even hesitate. Then I'll build my own table. And just like that, he walked away from the empire. For me, should have felt like victory. But that night, as we sat in silence, I realized something terrifying. Nico had given up everything, but I hadn't done the same. I was still hiding in his mansion, still letting him shield me. And if I didn't step up now, we wouldn't survive. So the next morning, I did something he didn't expect. Left, not forever, just for a few days, to prove something. To him, to the world, to myself. I rented a tiny studio, started freelance cleaning again. Posted honest videos online about my story, my truth, who I was before Nico, and who I was becoming now. People started to listen. Not everyone, but enough. One comment changed everything. She may have been a maid, but now she's a movement. I smiled, 'cause finally, I wasn't a victim. I was a voice, but power has a cost. And Harper wasn't done. One night, a fake email went out in my name, to a gossip tabloid, claiming I was selling secrets about the Devereux family. I was devastated. Nico's trust in me shattered in seconds. He confronted me, ice colder than I'd ever seen. Did you send this? No, I said quietly. He didn't speak, just turned away. I walked out, tears stinging my eyes. Not because he doubted me, but because I understood why he did. He'd been betrayed by everyone in his world. Now, he thought I was just another name on that list. But I wasn't giving up. Not this time. I traced the IP address, tracked the tabloid's submission form, and proved it was Harper's assistant who sent it. I sent Nico the evidence. And then I waited. 2 days. No response. A knock at my door. He stood there, Vaindon, eyes full of regret. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have known it wasn't you. I stepped aside. Amen. But something inside me had shifted. I don't need your protection, Nico, I said. I need your belief. He nodded slowly. I do. Now more than ever. I stood there. Two people broken by the world, but not by each other. And in that moment, I knew something deeper than love. I had his respect. But Harper, she wasn't finished. She filed a defamation lawsuit against me, citing emotional damages and sabotage of public image. The trial date was set, and just days before it, I received a package. Was it a video recording? Harper, sitting in a hotel lobby, bragging to someone about how she framed me, how she sent the email, how she was going to break the maid and the prince for good. I uploaded it to my page. Didn't say a word. Just posted it with the caption, "Here's your queen." The internet erupted. Hashtags trended. Harper's sponsors dropped her overnight. And the lawsuit, withdrawn. But more than that, finally felt peace. Not because she lost, but because I stood my ground and didn't let them write my ending. That night, Nico showed up with a ring. But I stopped him. I don't want to be your queen yet, I whispered. Not until I feel like I've earned my own crown. He smiled. Then let me help you build it. Would you walk away from the love of your life to find yourself? Have you ever been falsely accused and had to fight for your truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Part 4. Ivy discovers that strength isn't given. Claimed. Part 4. It had been 3 weeks since Harper vanished from headlines. And I still hadn't said yes to Nico's proposal. Not because I didn't love him, but because I needed to know who I was without him. I had been the maid, then the scandal, then the survivor. But now, I wanted to be more than just a chapter in Nico's story. I wanted a story of my own. So I said something that shocked even me. I'm starting a foundation. Nico blinked. A foundation. He nodded. For girls like me. The invisible ones. The overlooked. The discarded. He smiled. That quiet, proud smile I'd come to love. Then let's build it. But building a foundation takes more than money. Takes vision. And opening wounds you thought had already healed. I called it the crown within. Because every girl deserves to wear one. Even if she has to forge it from fire. I went back to the same hotel where I once cleaned rooms. Not as a worker, but as a guest speaker. I stood before a crowd of women. Some cleaners. Some single moms. Some who had almost given up. And I told them about the pain. The betrayal. The nights I cried on mop buckets wondering if I mattered. And how now, even with the fame, even with the love, I was still that girl. Still scrubbing truth out of lies. Still choosing courage over comfort. After the event, one girl waited to speak to me. Her name was Anna. And her voice trembled. You made me believe I could matter too, she said. I almost ended everything last year. But now, maybe not. I hugged her. Because sometimes, you don't need a throne to feel like a queen. Just one moment. One voice. Nana. But of course, good things don't go unnoticed by bad people. One morning, a journalist approached me outside the center. I have a question, she said. Did you steal from the hotel you used to work at? My heart stopped. What? She held up a printed receipt. From 3 years ago. A stolen tablet. Signed under my name. I knew it was a lie. The lies. They move faster than truth. Before I could blink, the internet was full of it again. Queen of thieves. Maid turned gold digger gets caught. Even some donors to my foundation began pulling out. Nico called instantly. I'm handling it, he said. But I stopped him. No. Let me. I went back to the hotel. To the security office. To an old manager who remembered me. He pulled up a photo. From the day the theft happened. Near the corner was Harper. The signature wasn't mine. But the intent behind it was definitely hers. We had proof. Again. Could have sued her. Publicly shamed her. But I didn't. Not this time. Is it? I posted one sentence. Let their lies echo, mine will endure as truth. And with that, people started seeing through it all. Not just the drama, but the journey. I was no longer Nico's scandal. I was becoming something more. But even as my name cleared, my heart felt distant. Nico had been patient, supportive, always there. But one night, as we walked through his garden, stop. I need to ask something, he said. But this time, I need an answer. I looked at him. Not just the man I loved, but the man who had risked his legacy. His fortune. His name. For me. Ivy. Will you marry me? This time. I didn't hesitate. Yes. And in that second, the sky didn't change. The wind didn't blow differently. But I did. Because I wasn't a nobody anymore. I wasn't a story waiting to be told. I was writing it. One line at a time. But just days before the engagement party, another surprise hit us. Only this time. It wasn't scandal. It was family. A letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was a photo. of a little girl, and a note that read, "She looks just like you, Nico." He stared at it, face unreadable. "Who's M?" asked. He didn't answer, just walked away. I felt a pit in my stomach, quiet fear that maybe, just maybe, our story wasn't done twisting yet. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, haunted by a face I'd never seen, and a name I didn't know. Was it a threat, child, a lie, or a truth he never told me? And in that moment, I realized, queens don't just rule palaces, they survive storms. What would you do if a secret child from your partner's past appeared just before your wedding? Would you still say yes? Comment your thoughts below. In the final part, Ivy learns the difference between love that lifts and secrets that sink. Part 5. The day after the letter arrived, Nico barely said a word. I watched him, pacing by the window, reading that single line over and over again. "She looks just like you, Nico." I wanted to ask again, but something in his eyes told me he was already fighting a war inside. Finally, he spoke. "It's possible," he said quietly. "I knew a woman before you. Her name was Marin." "Marin? She left before things got serious," he continued. "She didn't want anything real. Or so I thought." His voice cracked. "I haven't spoken to her in over 5 years. So this child, this little girl in the photo, might be his. Have you ever seen her?" asked. He shook his head. "No, never." I looked down at the photo again. Big brown eyes, curly hair, maybe 4 or 5 years old. Something about her face felt familiar. Not mine, but his. Undeniably his. I had every right to scream, to break something, to walk away. But I didn't. Instead I whispered, "Let's find her." That weekend we hired a private investigator. Discreet, fast, expensive. Within days, he tracked Marin to a small coastal town, living in a modest house. No social media, no job history, just a woman and her daughter. Nico insisted on going alone first, to protect me, and maybe to prepare himself. When he returned, his eyes were red, but his hands trembled with something I didn't expect. "Oh, she's mine," he said, voice breaking. "She's mine." I didn't speak, just listened. "Ivy. She's incredible," he went on. "Her name's Lila. She loves painting. She asked me if I was a prince." I smiled. That sounds like her father. But inside me, a storm began brewing. Because while I was preparing to become a wife, I now had to prepare to become a mother to someone I'd never met. Someone I didn't carry, but who now carried part of the man I loved. 3 days later, I met Lila. She ran toward Nico like she'd known him forever, wrapped her tiny arms around his legs, and looked up at me. "Are you a princess too?" she asked. I knelt beside her. "I'm trying to be," I said. "But I'm still learning." She giggled, and in that moment, I knew. This girl was not a threat. She was a gift. But her mother was another story. Marin watched from the porch, arms crossed, expression blank. We spoke privately later. "I didn't want to ruin his life," she said. "But I needed help." I looked at her, not as a rival, but as a woman who had lived a very different pain. "You should have told him sooner," I said. Her eyes filled with regret. I was scared he'd take her away. I didn't respond, because deep down, understood. Fear makes you do foolish things. Hide truth, delay consequences, even hurt those you never meant to. But now, it wasn't about the past. It was about the little girl holding Nico's hand, and the future we had to build around her. The wedding was postponed, not cancelled. Just 'cause I needed space, to breathe, to think. Everyone thought I'd leave. Tabloids screamed. Billionaire's bride discovers secret love child. The maid turned queen, turns her back. But I stayed silent, because some decisions don't need to be broadcast, they need to be felt. Nico gave me time. He didn't beg, didn't chase, just waited. Until one night, I found myself in front of the mirror, wearing the same simple dress I once wore when I cleaned rooms. Looking at the girl I used to be, and the woman I had become, I whispered aloud, "You are not a backup plan. You are not a scandal. You are not just someone's happily ever after. You are the story." And with that, I made my decision. The next morning, I walked into the foundation's office. Nico was waiting. He stood when he saw me, but didn't speak. He smiled, took his hand, and said the only words that mattered. "Let's finish what we started." We got married in a garden. Nothing fancy, just family, close friends, and Lila, throwing petals, wearing a tiny crown. As I walked toward Nico, I saw not just a man, but a choice. Hard, messy, beautiful choice. And I said I do, not because I needed a title or a legacy, but because I found something rarer than wealth, more valuable than power. A love that saw me when I was nobody, and still chose me, even after I became somebody. Today I'm not just a wife, not just a founder, not just a mother figure to a girl I didn't birth. I'm a queen, in my own right, crowned not by diamonds, but by the battles I survived, by the truths I spoke, and the dignity I refused to lose. Because sometimes, the greatest royalty comes from rising when no one thought you ever could.